Hello everyone, welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning and today I'm joined by my co-host Pearse McLaughlin. Hello Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's Premier League results, reacting to last weekend's Scottish Cup results, discussing the latest transfer news, and at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of what the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off with last weekend's English Premier League results. So I'll just quickly go through them. So on Saturday, the 20th of January, the results were Arsenal 5, Crystal Palace 0, Brentford 3, Nottingham Forest 2. And then on Sunday, 21st of January, we had Sheffield United 2, West Ham United 2, and AFC Bournemouth 0, Liverpool 4. So, which match from these four results, Pearse, stands out to you most?
I think the only really standout fixture for me has got to be the first game you mentioned. That is obviously the Arsenal 5, Crystal Palace 0. And I think it just goes to show the strength and depth that Arsenal do have when they're firing on all cylinders. Obviously, Martinelli and Bukayo Saka have been under pressure for a wee while in terms of not producing when they've been quite off the boil in terms of not scoring enough goals, along with Gabriel Jesus. But obviously, Martinelli gets two late goals. Trossard comes in, scores as well. So it looks a bit more rosier for Arteta, considering they lost the pace in terms of the title race in the Premier League. So, and two of Martinelli's goals are pretty much carbon copy. Left hand side, just side footing into the far corner. And Crystal Palace, I don't think they really did anything contributing going forward. I think they'll just try to damage limitation at times. But I thought even a couple of goals as well, set pieces for Arsenal, which is quite unusual because they're not really a big side. Um, but yeah, no, I thought it was a fully convincing win, and I think it gets a monkey off the backs of obviously Arteta because a lot of the Arsenal fans were disgruntled because of teams are kind of pulling away from them a wee little bit.
Yeah, my standout result is the AFC Bournemouth 0, Liverpool 4 match. Just because, I think Bournemouth and Liverpool were the two most informed teams going into that match. I thought it was going to be a bit of a difficult game for Liverpool. But they ended up winning the game quite convincingly. In the first half, it was a pretty tight match. Um, and then it was 0-0 at half time. But then second half, Liverpool kind of stepped it up, and then their attacking force at the end was just too strong for Bournemouth. They've also got no Salah. I mean, it's actually quite. They had no Trent, no Salah, no Robertson. Szoboszlai wasn't playing as well, and they went away to Bournemouth, who have been brilliant the last few weeks, and they won 4-0. It was just a brilliant result for them, and I think now you can. I wasn't sure about it a few weeks ago, but I think you can now say that Liverpool definitely well in the title race now. There's only we're coming into the end of this kind of run into the season, end of the season, and Liverpool are right in there in terms of winning the title. So I just think that was a standout result. Just for how convincing the scoreline was, because I actually thought Bournemouth. I actually had I don't know why I kind of had a feeling that Bournemouth were actually going to beat Liverpool. But that obviously didn't turn out to be true. So that was my standout result from the weekend. And then obviously just you were briefly touching about Arsenal. It was good for them to get back into, winning form again. It was a really convincing result. And then I think Roy Hodgson's under a bit of pressure at Crystal Palace. I don't think the fans are too happy with the team and the manager. I think there was some banners that were shown from the Crystal Palace end. So it looks a bit troubling there at the moment. And I just wanted to touch on the Brentford Nottingham Forest match. That was Ivan Toney's first match in quite a long time, over 6 months. Obviously, come back from a ban. and he scores in his first match back. It's a really good free kick, and I think they've missed him big time.
The only
So
problem is there was a
it
bit of
was,
controversy around that free kick when he moved the ball a couple of times.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Maybe it's the referee caught that. I don't think that would have been brought back. But it didn't get caught, and but at the end of the day, he did end up scoring. Was actually quite a clever free kick. And Brentford have been really poor. They've had some really poor results. I think they hadn't won in quite a while. And then Ivan Toney comes back and they get back to winning ways. So he's going to be so important to them. Um, and from now to the end of the season, and that's if they can keep him this January, which I think they will. I think there is a few kind of big clubs in England that want him. Arsenal, I think, are the favourites for him, but I think he will stay until the end of the season, and then he'll probably likely move on in the summer. But I think Brentford, they would like nothing to have him back. So yeah, again, a quiet weekend of Premier League football. I don't think we're going to see Premier League football now for a couple of weeks, because I think this week it's the FA Cup, so we'll not have the Premier League back until next week. So yeah, but my standout result from last weekend's was the Bournemouth 0, Liverpool 4 match. So we'll move on to the Scottish Cup results. So obviously the SPFL teams were back in action after the winter break, and they kicked off the return from the winter break with the Scottish Cup. So I'll just quickly go through the results. There's quite a few. So the first match was Spartans 1, Hearts 2. We have Clyde 0, Aberdeen 2. We have A United 3, Celtic Hearts 0. Bonnyrigg Rose 2, Falkirk 1. Forfar 0, Hibs 1. Morton 2, Montrose 0. Inverness 4, Broomhill 0. Kilmarnock 2, Dundee 0. Livingston 2, Raith Rovers 1. Motherwell 3, Alloa Athletic 1. Ross County 0, Partick Thistle 3. St Mirren 1, Queen of the South 0. Airdrie 1, St Johnstone 0. Dumbarton 1, Rangers 4. And then on Sunday, 21st of January, we had one Scottish Cup match, and that was Celtic 5, Buckie Thistle 0. So just looking through these results, Pearse, I don't know about you, there wasn't too many surprises. I don't know about yourself, but do you have a match there that stands out to you? Perhaps, what do you think? Is there anything there that stands out to you the most?
Probably the standout, like, kind of the only short result that I can see in the list that you've mentioned is probably Airdronians 1, St Johnstone 0. Could obviously that's a
Yeah,
championship side up against a Premiership outfit. Although St John's have been struggling, but Craig Levein has kind of got them quite resolute. But obviously, we seen Airdronians up close just a couple of years ago when we were covering Queen's Park, and they're a decent outfit. Reece McCabe's a player manager, former Rangers midfielder, and I think he's got him playing some nice football, and obviously he's
yeah,
got us into the next round, put out a Premiership outfit, which is no mean task. So I think it's got to be a special mention there. But I think the game that I kind of caught on Saturday was, I think was it no sorry the Friday game was Clyde 0, Aberdeen 2. And obviously we all know what happened last year with Aberdeen at this round when they played Darvel.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was the most talked about result in Scottish football for a long time. Sort of monkeys off the back there, so they went to Clyde. Um, at the Hamilton Stadium. So, and I think we also scored a really nice goal on a half turn. And then Devlin sealed it late on. So I think they just did a bit too much quality, but I think you can see there's still a bit in there from last year. But I think just getting through into the next round will do Aberdeen the world of good, because obviously they're a really good outfit. They've done well in Europe this season as well. So it's just about kind of kicking on and potentially just try getting to the latter stage of the competition And I think obviously the fairy tale story we've got to mention as well was the last game of the weekend, and that was Celtic 5, Bucky Thistle 0. And you probably
Yeah, yeah,
expected Celtic to play a weakened team against a team that's from the Highland League, although they're top of the Highland League, but 4 divisions below. But the fact is that Celtic nearly played a full strength side, minus the players that are away on international duty. Um, I thought that shows the respect that they gave the opposition, and I think Celtic won the game fairly comfortable, and it could have been a lot more. There was a lot of offside goals that I probably the first time I've seen that happen, about 5, 6 times. More players have caught offside constantly, but they're scoring the goals. And that can only be a good thing because once they got onside, it'll only benefit the attacking players because they're looking to just get in that wee half yard in front of the defenders. But no, I thought 5 different goal scorers, and obviously it's kind of nice to see as well. Some obviously academy players being brought in for Celtic because I think that's like the first time in a wee while that's happened. So it's nice to see the big two in Scotland anyway bringing on academy players in the Scottish Cup because I think once they get the opportunity, it's about trying to grasp it because you don't get many at Celtic and Rangers because once you get an opportunity to play, you need to take it. Otherwise, you won't be there for long. And that's obviously the 3 fixtures that I think will just stand out for me.
yeah. I don't really have a big. There's not a for me. There's not a big, massive standout match that you could say was really surprising. But I'm going to go with the Ross County 0, Partick Thistle 3. I think that was quite a standout result. Obviously Ross County in the top division, Partick Thistle in the Championship. And the fact Partick Thistle went there away from home, and they won 3-0. Kind of good revenge for them after what happened last season when they both played in the playoff final when Ross County won in penalties. So no, that was pretty a, a pretty standard result, just considering the result. The fact it ended 3-0. And then I thought Derek Adams, who is the new Ross County manager, again kind of having a dig at his players, saying that kind of suggesting that if he'd have thought about it more, he wouldn't have left his last job at Morecambe to come to Ross County. Kind of controversial again. He seems to come out with quite wild comments, controversial comments every weekend after Ross County have a negative result.
I don't think
So
it's a good job for long then, Molly, if you keep making comments.
no, I know
You see what happened
the
to
way
Troy
he's
Deeney in the
going, it
week?
doesn't sound.
You see what
I
happened
know
to
that. I
Troy?
mean, yeah. I mean, the players. I mean, I don't know what the players think about that. Every weekend he comes out with some quite big statements. I don't know what the players think about it in the dressing room, but it's quite interesting to see, or even hear. But yeah, that was probably the biggest standout result for me from the weekend. Obviously, you were just suggesting Airdrie St Johnstone. I think Airdrie are known for playing quite good football. They kind of keep the ball on the ground and they play a lot of passes and stuff. And they've got a really young manager there, so it's quite a good everything there at the moment. Airdrie is it's quite refreshing to see. You don't really get a lot of championship teams in Scotland that kind of play like that. So it's quite good to see that. I want to touch on the Bonnyrigg Rose 2 Falkirk 1 match. I think Bonnyrigg Rose are in Highland League. That was actually Falkirk's first defeat of the season. They're still undefeated in League One. Um, Falkirk are actually Falkirk, they've gone really well. Obviously, they're top of the table in League One, and that was actually their first defeat of the season. And Bonnyrigg Rose won that match in the last minute of the game. So that was quite a significant result. Really for me, quite up there in terms of standout matches from the weekend. Obviously the Celtic match. I mean, that'd be the shock of all shocks if Bucky Thistle managed to win that. I think that'd be the biggest shock in history of football. But obviously Celtic won that comfortably. And Bucky Thistle actually had a good kind of turnout in terms of fans. I think they brought a lot, so that was good to see. And then also lastly, I mean, it wasn't a big Hearts beat Spartans 2-1. I don't know if you saw the Spartans goal. Last weekend it was a brilliant goal. From outside the box and first time volley, and it was right in the top corner. It was a brilliant goal. And Hearts it was the last minute of the game for Hearts to win that. So quite some kind of good moments from last weekend in the Scottish Cup. But my standout match is the Ross County 0, Partick Thistle 3 match. So we'll move on to another bit of Scottish football news, which is starting from next season. In the top flight in the SPFL, there's going to be no winter break. So it's tradition for the top flight in Scotland for teams to go on a two-week winter break just after the New Year's matches. But that's not going to be happening for next season. So it'll mean probably that the season starts a little bit later than it usually does. So I don't know. Do you think that's quite significant, Pearse? Do you think that changes a lot, or do you not think it's that big of a situation? What do you think?
I think it has to happen. With obviously the new format and with UEFA with competition starting from next season in terms of the Champions League, Conference League, Europa League, there are more teams than ever, so there's going to be more games. Usually you get a traditional 6 matches, but I think now it's up to 10 or 12 matches. So the fact is it's like a league format, and there's a certain amount of teams that get automatically qualified, and in a certain position the teams that go into the knockouts for the playoff. So it can only benefit Scottish football. Obviously, the traditional Dubai trips for for most of the players will have to just be put on hold. But probably an extended summer break, so it's probably a benefit that way. But obviously, with a lot of fixtures over that festive period, traditional in Scotland, it will be a bit difficult. But in terms of if you're wanting to progress in Europe, especially obviously the likes of your Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, Hearts, and Hibs up the top end of the table, if you want to be in European competitions beyond Christmas, it has to happen. So you have to have games in between. You can't have a 2 week hiatus from any football and then expect to play European ties. So I think it can only benefit the Scottish teams, and with Scottish teams in Europe have proven that they can compete at this level in terms of group stage football. It's just about obviously trying to make sure all the Scottish sides have the best chances possible of progression beyond into the knockout stages beyond Christmas. And I think it's a good move by the SFA, because obviously the SPFL needs to accommodate European football because it brings in so much money to the rest of the clubs in the SPFL system. So I think it can only benefit all the Scottish clubs in the long run. So I think it's a good decision.
Yeah, and it's only broke. The news only broke kind of just before we went on the podcast. I don't think it necessarily changes a lot. Obviously you were saying there about the European football side, which is true. But I don't think it changes a lot in terms of teams in terms of fighting for their goals and what they want to achieve in this season. Uh, I don't think the teams in top flight, I don't think the managers and stuff will be happy, because I think they like that winter break, because it means that they can get all their players back fit. And then kind of push on for the last part of the season. But I don't really think, in my opinion, it kind of changes much. Um, you know, you see our teams in other leagues that kind of they don't get winter breaks. See in the lower divisions of England, the amount of matches they play, and they seem to survive it. So I don't really think it's a big massive um decision. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because this winter break's been such a traditional part in Scottish football for quite a while. So it'll be interesting for next season to see, how the teams in top flight kind of, react to it, and how they kind of survive it. So we'll move on now to transfer news, kind of around the globe. We had actually quite last weekend. Last week we had a quite big transfer news story, which was Ajax, and they signed Jordan Henderson from the Saudi team Al Ettifaq. So Jordan Henderson was in Saudi Arabia for 6 months, but he's now left Al Ettifaq and he's come back to Europe, and he's now playing for Ajax. So what do you think about that one, Pearse?
That's a bit of a strange decision, I think. Obviously, we all know the reasons he went to Saudi Arabia. It wasn't
Yeah,
because of the beaches. It was because of, obviously, the monetary gain that he would have, pocketing, I think it was close to £600,000 a week, tax-free. But he cited reasons for leaving, obviously, the fact that his family couldn't stay with him. And obviously, there's not enough fans in the stadium because he was at one of the lower sides in the league. But obviously, did have his obviously former teammate Steven Gerrard as manager. So you expect that would have been a nice connection for him, but it just obviously didn't work out for him. And he's travelling back and forth in terms of for England duty as well. So I think he wants to make sure he plays as long as he can for England and obviously get a bit of stick for the fans as well. So maybe all that accumulated into his decision making. And obviously he's going to Ajax, who are predominantly a really top side in Europe. And obviously they usually dominate in Dutch football, but this season they've had probably they've had the worst starts they've ever had for a very long time. And obviously I think they're now sitting in fifth in the table, trailing the PSV, but I think it's like 23 points. So maybe that's a smart signing by Ajax, because obviously they lost in the summer. Big money signing for West Ham was Edson Alvarez, and they lost Kudus as well. So I think they're needing something to shore up that defence, because I think they're a bit leaky. And obviously it's an easier commute from Holland to England for probably his family as well. So I think it's probably a smart decision for him. He's probably taking the family and obviously England into the equation. And obviously that I think a lot of decisions will be made in terms of transfers due to Euro 2024 for a lot of players. And I think that's another one that's came into his thinking, because if you get an injury to Declan Rice for England, he's usually the first one in that position that can play there. So I think even at his age, with his experience in tournaments, that's probably came into his decision making. I think that's probably a smart move. And for me, he's took a massive pay cut to go there. And I think that's for Ajax, they're gaining a very experienced player and obviously still a tremendous amount of quality. No, so I think it's a really smart signing.
yeah. I think it's a smart signing for Ajax as well. Um, you know, he's a very experienced player. Ajax they've picked up now, but they had a really bad start to the season. So for Jordan Henderson to come in to that middle of the pitch, he's Champions League winner, the Premier League winner as well. So he'll add a lot to um, Ajax in terms of what they want to achieve this season. In terms of Jordan Henderson, but I think it's a right move for him because obviously they've got. I think a lot of his decision to leave Ettifaq to come back to Europe was obviously his family, but obviously the fact that, as you said, the Euros are coming in the summer, and I think he's desperate to be in that squad because most likely, what I think is likely that this will be his last kind of tournament in an England shirt. So I think he was desperate to kind of get into that squad. Um, you know, it was a controversial when he did leave Liverpool to go to Saudi Arabia. He's only lasted 6 months there. I think you said about the fan situation, the fact that there's not a lot of fans that go to the matches for the team that Jordan Henderson played for. I think that was part of his decision as well. But to go to Ajax, I mean, what an opportunity because they're like one of the biggest clubs in the world. They play in a brilliant stadium. They play really good football. And I think it's a really good move for them. And yeah, the Saudi Arabia experience didn't really work out for them. But going to Ajax, I think it's a really really good move for them. And then obviously just touching on Saudi Arabia as well. I think there's a bit of news about Karim Benzema at the moment, who plays for Al Ettifaq. No, sorry, he doesn't. He plays for Al Ittihad.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he's kind of unsettled there at the moment. There's kind of rumours, a lot of rumours at the moment that he's thinking about leaving. I think there's a few Premier League clubs that have been kind of interested in him. I think Lyon, his former club, are trying to sign him as well. So what do you think, Pearse? Do you think Benzema will stay, or do you think he'll come back? What do you think?
Oh, I probably know Benzema more than anyone because I followed him very closely for years in terms of watching break out at Lyon. And then obviously followed his career at Real Madrid. Obviously being a Real Madrid fan, watched him very closely. He stuck quite a fair few times from the Madrid fans. And then once Ronaldo left, he came out of the shadow and became the main man, won himself a Ballon d'Or, carried Real Madrid to Champions League against Manchester City and Liverpool, which seemed impossible. And then his final season, he was plagued by injuries. He was let go, went to Saudi Arabia, earning a lot of money. Obviously from African origins, Algerian born, French. It seemed like the perfect fit for him. Obviously, going to the probably the most successful side in Saudi Arabia, Al Ittihad record champions, but it just hasn't worked out. He hasn't scored a lot of goals or assists, and in the big matches against the Al Nassr and the other big sides in Saudi Arabia, he's failed to contribute at all. And obviously, Nuno has also left the job as well, and obviously there's been fallouts with the club as well. So I think like the fact is the higher officials at Al Ittihad are not happy, but obviously the Saudi Pro League, the people that run the whole league as a whole, wanting to keep him in the league and maybe potentially transfer to another side in the league. But I think you can see with Benzema, I think he does want to go back to Europe, and I think it's just not worked out for him. You mentioned Leon, but I don't know. I think there's quite a fair few teams in the Premier League that could do with a striker, and I'm thinking three clubs: Chelsea, who don't score enough goals; Manchester United, who are struggling and only rely on Rasmus Højlund, and obviously with the experience of Karim Benzema at 35, would be invaluable for these players as well. And obviously you mentioned about Ivan Toney at Arsenal. I think a Karim Benzema at Arsenal would be perfect as well. Because obviously, Benzema, brilliant with his link-up play. It's not the quickest anymore, but he just knows half yard. He's brilliant. He can link up players brilliantly. And obviously, seeing how well he worked with Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. at Real Madrid. And if you've got Mudryk and I think it's Madueke at Chelsea or Cole Palmer, you link up there. And obviously, at Arsenal, you've got Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli and Martin Odegaard, who he knows from his time at Real Madrid as well. So there could be potential links, but obviously I think the fairy tale story would be going back to Leon. But I think the Premier League, I think just another big league he'd want to try. And even if it's just 6 months until the end of the season, I think it would be brilliant for him. And I think it would be brilliant for the Premier League if they could attract a player of his calibre. But I do think he will leave Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely to will leave Saudi Arabia. Um, I think it's clear at the moment that there's issues there that he kind of I think he wants to I think it's temporarily for like 6 months or something. Um, and there is a lot of Premier League clubs that are linked with him. So that'd be amazing to see Benzema playing the Premier League. I think Arsenal would benefit the most because obviously they need that striker, that top striker, and Benzema's obviously one of the best strikers to play in this kind of century. So, I mean, it's not confirmed yet. It's still not really confirmed what's really happening, but it does seem to be that he is kind of thinking about leaving in this January window. The Saudi League don't want him to leave because he's obviously their kind of one of the biggest stars in the league. So it's kind of interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it'd be amazing if he ends up going to the Premier League. But it's all just rumours at the moment. So I think in the next week or so, by the time this time next week when we do the podcast, we'll kind of know more about what the situation is. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so obviously match day 2 happened of the Asian Cup. And obviously, so we started on Friday, done a match report on it. Iraq 2, Japan 1. A first half double from Ayman Hussein was enough to seal a famous victory over Japan as they triumphed 2-1. A late Wataru Endo strike in stoppage time pulled a goal back for Japan, but they couldn't find the all-important equaliser and have now suffered defeat for the very first time in 12 matches, with the last defeat coming on the 28th of March 2023, where they lost 2-1 to Colombia. It was a pragmatic approach from Iraq as they made the most of set pieces, counter-attack situations, and threw bodies on the line as they defended their goal manfully. In the end, the tactics worked as they nullified Japan to very little clear-cut chances, and I'm sure this will give Hajime Moriyasu major headaches heading into the final group game against Indonesia. So they play Indonesia on Wednesday, the 24th of January. That'll be the final group stage game, and that is set for an 8:30 kickoff Korean Southern Time. So this is a must not lose for Japan as they're now level on points with Indonesia, but have a superior goal difference. If Japan draw or win, they progress into the last 16 in second place, where they could potentially play South Korea in the last 16 if they top their group, which is a match everyone wants to see. If they lose it, it'll be unthinkable for the favourites to crash out so soon, especially given the talent at their disposal. And Japan will be hoping Karo Mitoma will be fit enough to play a part and help his country progress to the last 16. So South Korea played on the 20th of January and they drew 2-2 with Jordan. And I've done a match report on that as well, and that's also available on the Football Chuggu website. So South Korea rescued a late point against Jordan with an own goal from Yazoo Abu Al Arab as they drew against Jordan with an own goal 2-2. It's as you were in Group E as the top two shared the spoils and are both on 4 points after the opening two matches. Jordan and South Korea share the spoils in what was an evenly fought contest, although South Korea will be kicking themselves, having missed 3 glorious opportunities in the match, and on another day it could have been a resounding victory. Jordan caused South Korea all sorts of problems, especially in the first half, and they tried to protect the lead in the second half, but couldn't hold on in the end. And I think a draw is a fair result, and both sides now have 4 points apiece after the opening two matches in this AFC Asian Cup Group E. So South Korea play their final group stage game on Thursday, the 25th of January, while they'll host Malaysia, and that is also set for an 8:30 kickoff Korean Southern Time. This is a must-win for South Korea as they're joint top with Jordan, but tail Jordan by 2 goals and have a slim advantage over Bahrain by a point. So South Korea are now playing the bottom seeds of the group and should be a victory, but they'll need to better Jordan's result if they're to top the group and potentially set up a glamour tie with Japan in the last 16. And South Korea will be hoping Hwang Hee-chan can either start or play, as Cho Go-sung is currently struggling for form, and you can see he is lacking confidence at the moment. So, nightmare of a news from the Korean camp as the first choice goalkeeper Kim Seung-Gyu has sustained a torn ACL, which will rule him out for the rest of the Asian Cup. So this means that Jo Young-woo is now the number 1 for the rest of the remaining games of the AFC Asian Cup 2023. So according to media outlets in the UK, Celtic FC have held talks with Gwangju FC midfielder Jung Ho-Yeon. Jung Ho-Yeon won the K-League 1 Young Player of the Year award last season, and as he helped guide Gwangju FC to 3rd place finished after promotion from the K-League 2. Jung has been on Celtic's radar for some time, and this could be a deal that happens this window. Watch this space as Football Chuggu has got you covered with all Asian football transfer news. Fujitsu have purchased the naming rights to Todoroki Stadium, which will now be called Uvans Todoroki Stadium by Fujitsu. The contract will run until March 2029 or when the stadium gets renovated, whichever comes first, and that is the Kawasaki Frontale Stadium. So the fixture list for the 2024 J-League 1 season is here. The newly expanded 20-team Meiji Yasuda J-League 1 kicks off on Friday, the 23rd of February, with a special doubleheader. Sanfrecce Hiroshima will take on Urawa Diamonds to open the season at the brand new Ideon Peace Wing Hiroshima, before Nagoya Grampus host Kashi Antlers in the rematch of the 1993 inaugural season opener. The next day, reigning champions Vissel Kobe will begin their title defence at Jubilo Iwata, a club that is back in the first division after promotion last year. On Sunday, last year's runners-up, Yokohama F. Marinos, will also take on a newly promoted side in their opening contest. The Tricolour will make the shop trip to Tokyo Verde, while returning to the J-League 1 for the first time in a decade and a half. These are just some of the exciting fixtures that define the 2024 opening weekend. So Friday, the 23rd of February, we have Sanfrecce Hiroshima against Ura Diamonds, Nogo Grand Prix against Cam Shartners, and on Saturday we have Jubal Awata versus Vissel Kobe, Azifa Fukuoka versus Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo, Sagan Tusa versus Albirex Niigata, FC Machida Zelvia versus Gambo Osaka, Shonan Bellmare against Kawasaki Frontale, and then Ceres Osaka versus FC Tokyo. And to round off, on Sunday, the 25th of February, we have Kawashiri Assault versus Kyoto Sanga, and Tokyo Verde versus Yokohama F Mariners. And that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.